Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Anime Symbol. First of all, I'm going to be redoing What If Naruto had the Almighty, so yeah. I have part of the first episode finished already, so yeah. I'm going to be redoing that, guys. But I wanted to drop this. It's been a long time coming, and given the new series that is returning off Solo Leveling, what if Naruto was the Monarch of Destruction, the King of Dragons, Antares, guys, yes. Part 1. If you enjoyed this and you want to see part 2, just go ahead and comment down below and I'll be posting it as soon as possible for you guys to enjoy. And don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels. If you're new, yes, I indeed have 3 more which I post What If on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead, check them out, and yeah, enjoy. So without further ado or wasting more time, let us begin this now, guys. We begin this new series with a woman known as Kushina, Uzumaki. Kushina was overjoyed. She was happy, extremely so, as she embraced a woman in front of her. Both of them having long red hair, their features almost seeming similar. However, while Kushina's eyes were blue, the other woman's eyes were purple. The other woman was known as Kasumi, and she was also a Uzumaki. Outside of the home where Kushina and Kasumi was, there was a man outside known as Minato Namikaze, as he was speaking to another man who had light brown hair and brown eyes. He was just an average farmer. There was nothing special about him. He was a normal man with a normal life. The village that they were currently located in was away from all of the violence that were taking place throughout the elemental nation that were still waging even right now. Despite the Third Great Shinobi War wrapping up, there were still many off-putting attacks that were being led. The reason why Kushina and Minato was out here, Minato Namikaze, he was not a normal man. He was the new Hokage of Konoha. And this what they were doing was actually a secret. You see, some time ago, the Uzumaki clan was massacred. And it is said that only one was able to survive the attack and come to Konoha. There was another one there, known as Mito Uzumaki. She was the wife of Hoshirama Senju. However, Kasumi Uzumaki also survived the attack as well, her being 2 years older than Kushina. And she ended up here, moving from one place to another until she landed here. The one that saved her died during the escape. She had run away. However, arriving here, she was alone and afraid. However, 2 of the nicest people that she would ever meet offer her sanctuary, and they took her in. They protected her. They watched over her, standing by her side, hiding her away from the world that was actually hunting down the remnants of the clan. That was for those who survive, giving their special properties. Because Kasumi was not a normal Uzumaki. Kushina was born with a special chakra unlike any. However, Kasumi, her chakra was unique and very unusual. She has properties that went straight back to some of the top founders of the Uzumaki clan, with the purest bloodline that is said to hold Powers that rival some of the people that walk on this earth that is referred to as gods. However, Kasumi didn't want to fight anymore. Given the life that she had led, the background that led up to this. In the beginning, despite her special properties, she was never truly a fighter. And she met the love of her life here and settled down, hiding her reputation away from the world, hiding everything away from the world. However, she was found, but by someone good though. Minato wanted to help his wife. Kushina was going through a difficult phase at the moment. You see, it was the beast that was inside of her. The nine-tailed fox. That awful, corrosive chakra. There was a problem for her to conceive. They've been trying, but so far, it did not look like the future was set for them to have a child. And that made her incredibly sad, because she wanted to be a mother. Minato had heard rumors. Jiraiya was the one that gave him said rumors from his spy network about another Uzumaki that was amongst the land. Many believe that it was just skeptical rumors that were fake, as many of these rumors had been large in the past. However, he spent the next 3 months finding and locating and seeing if any of this was truthful. And he come across her, Kasumi, bringing her to reunite with Kushina. They weren't just clan members. Kasumi and Kushina were cousins, which made her all the more delight to see her, as Minato was happy seeing his wife smile like that. Yes. Looking inside, as a young boy made his way towards the two, Kasumi proceeded to introduce her son. His name was Naruto Uzumaki. Kushina chuckled a bit, believing that he was named after the ramen topping, causing Kasumi to bump her on the head, believing that her obsession with ramen was so much that was the first thing that came to mind. However, that was not the case. The name represented Maelstrom. The young boy seemed to be no older than 3 years old, looked up towards the woman and greeted her properly. His hair was different from his mother's. It had an orange tint to it. Yes, it was red, but it seemed more orange, especially when the sunlight radiated down upon it. Kushina was so happy to meet the remnants of her family. Happy that they were here, happy that they were alive. As she met Naruto Uzumaki. Time skip. Tears. Kasumi was crying tears as her husband tried to soothe her anguish. However, it was a lot. It wasn't long that she reunited with Kushina, but it seems like fate did not destine the both of them to live for long. Kushina was killed during the nine-tail attack. It was hard to get this information, seeing that her identity was a secret. Minato, having the power that he had at his disposal, decided to grant her wish and not get her involved. She had a wonderful life with her wonderful family. There was no need to get her involved in anything that was going on. And Kushina was more than happy to visit her. Kushina even came back to tell her that she had big news. She was pregnant. Yes, she was. It seems like Kasumi visiting her was a miracle. It was a little bit after that she found out. Minato and Kushina were so overjoyed. However, the nine-tailed beasts ravaged the village. Kasumi felt ashamed. Kushina had informed her that she possessed the beast. Maybe if she was there, she could have done something. Maybe she could have prevented the beast from even getting out in the first place. However, that bothered her greatly. How was the beast able to escape? She spoke to Minato, trying to understand his level of understanding when it came to Fuinjutsu. And she had to say, the man was incredibly good. For someone that was not born from their clan, she was truly impressed. Not even Kushina had kept up the art. And her husband was truly unique with said art. So yes, it was as shocking to see. However, the beast was still able to get free and rain destruction. Kasumi turned her gaze as she heard the footsteps, seeing the 4-year-old boy walking up towards her. "Mom," he said, not liking to see his mother with any ounce of sadness. She pulled him into her embrace as he held on to her, trying to comfort her the best that he could, as she told him that everything was going to be alright. Time skip. The world seemed to freeze as Naruto watched as his mother was impaled. She was trying to protect them, trying to save them. This was moments after he watched his father receive a kunai to the chest, trying their best to keep them safe. Their village was attacked. Given the death of Minato Namikaze and Konoha having to deal with their internal problems because of the Nine Tail, a lot of skirmishes were going on. Certain villages were making a move to consolidate power, with Konoha being absent from the scene. Therefore, a lot of external fighting was going on. Given the fact that Konoha basically controlled the section beyond the Land of Fire that did not lead to the other elemental nations. And now they were pulling back to handle their own problem. It led to a lot of chaos. They came. They attacked, taking what they believed was theirs. When they saw his mother, when she used her chains as they went after her children, they realized how valuable she was. Children, yes. Sometime after the events that took place within Konoha, Naruto was gifted with a younger sister. Her name was Karin Uzumaki. He was so happy to be a big brother. And just as life was returning back to normal, this happened. His mother was killed in front of his eyes, right after his father was taken. And now his baby sister was unconscious and taken away by one of these men. Realizing how much these Uzumakis are worth, after witnessing how his mother had speared one of the villagers' wounds by allowing the villager to bite her. Watching his mother take her final breaths, her final words left her lips. They were barely spoken, but Naruto understood them. In that moment, he lost it. In that moment, something dark, something wicked, something destructive rose within his heart. His eyes were a mixture of his mother and his father. His father's color seeming to dull the purple in his eyes, making them look almost a bit grayish. However, in that moment, his eyes became orange. His soul ignites and chaos reigned. Moments later, around 15 minutes when backup finally arrived. What the hell happened here? One of the top subordinates questioned, as he saw, out of the 25 men that came, only 2 were still amongst the land of living. Underground, bound and tied, restrained with every single restraint that they possess, was an unconscious boy. He's a monster. One of the survivors babbled. The other one, with a missing arm, looked terrified. The recovering team stood there as a top official stepped forward and looked down towards said boy. His thoughts were interrupted by crying. Making his way, a young girl was crying, seeming to be no older than 2 years old, completely unscathed. Despite the destruction that was around her, there was not a single scratch on her. No, that was beyond intriguing, he thought to himself. As he looked back down towards the boy. Time skip. 4 ninjas, all of them hailing from the land of grass, found themselves in a sticky situation at the moment. 2 of them were injured. The other 2 seemed to be exhausted. For some time now, the land of grass have found themselves in a lot of problems, having fighting over many land that was in between them to see which one of them was powerful enough to conquer said land. And now they were going at it with the people of the hills. And yes, this team that was sent to identify this important landmine found themselves walking into an ambush. As they were hunkered down, one of them used an earth technique to cover their position, but it wouldn't last for much longer as they could hear the explosives on the other side. The hill people slowly tracking towards them. If they could just make it back within their land grounds, the hill people would stand no chance. Given the dexterity and the build of the land of grass area, it was their home and they understood it more than anyone else. So they need to make it back. However, with the 2 injured and the other 2 being exhausted, the one that held up the rock protection seeming to look like he was about to run out of fumes anytime soon. However, they couldn't allow the hill people to get this land because if they did, they would be one step closer to conquering the entire stretch that spanned from here towards the border of their land, which was something they wanted to conquer. Boom! All thoughts ceased as an explosion hit the ground. Everyone could immediately feel it. The atmosphere had changed. The place felt hot as an extreme heat spread through the entire place. The only one that was not injured and not holding up the dome decided to find out. As he took a look, the moment he saw who exactly it was, he seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. 6 ninjas, as they were all fully healthy. 2 had been killed by the land of grass people. The hill people had their weapons out. The one who was throwing the explosive tags paused as they shielded their face from the thing that fell from the heavens, unknown what it was. Immediately though, the leader of the group feared the worst. They have heard rumors that the land of grass had a secret weapon, a very powerful secret weapon. However, most likely all of this was just rumors, as most people don't tend to believe these things. Knowing said village was just trying to use it to bolster their forces and make them look more dangerous and intimidating. However, as the smoke and dust cleared, they were greeted to the sight of someone who was calmly standing there. It was a young man, seeming to be around 15 or 16 years old, possessing red hair that went down into his back. His eyes were red, with slits in them, and they seemed to be glowing as well, as he stood exactly 6 feet tall. He was wearing a strange gray and black clothing, a gray cloak that stopped right at his waist. It possessed long sleeves that tied in with the black and gray, with red markings on the back that resemble flames. Dark pants that went straight down into dark boots. His clothing looked rather stylish as he stood there calmly. His expression though was not a happy one. The moment that he was seen, the one that had poked his head out immediately rose up. "Kill them all," he said. "Leave no survivors." However, the individual did not move. A snarl graced his features. "You heard what I said. Kill them all. You were given a direct order to come here. So do As you're told or else. Red Eyes greeted the grass ninja, making him immediately shut his mouth. Despite giving orders like that, they seemed to be afraid of him. Given that look in his eyes, that one that seemed to want to just rip them limb from limb, he exhaled as smoke left his mouth. He started to walk. Suddenly, the hill ninjas realized the danger, immediately flashing through hand sign, bringing their hand down the ground sink. All of them. As their technique was rather unique, the ground moved like water. It wrapped and twisted around the young man, trying to pull him under, trying to bury him where he stood. However, a huge eruption of power exploded everything away from him, including the ninjas of the hills. He started to walk. The very step that he took released this unprecedented aura that started to affect them greatly as they started to back away. However, the next moment, his hand changed, almost looking like the hand of a beast. He plunged it into the ground. Upon doing that, the ground underneath them started to glow. It was followed by a huge explosion. The first one that went into the sky found his face grabbed. The next moment, his body was plundered through the earth. All sign of life seeming to leave him instantly. The other one flipped and landed, pulling out a blade and swinging it. However, his arm was caught. Immediately it was snapped in two. An elbow crushed his nose, gripped him by his face and lifted him before delivering a kick that knocked every single air out of his lungs. The young man appeared above him and dropped a kick into his back that shattered his spine completely. His body hit the ground with a boom. He was no longer moving. The remaining four started to release a barrage of weapons, kunais, shurikens, everything that they had at their disposal to take him down. He opened his mouth as flames emerged. The weapons melted in mid-air, steel melting to nothing. They were shocked as they decided to flee, realizing that this weapon was much more dangerous than they originally thought. However, he flew past them. He outpaced them so easily, it came as a shock. Now standing there, as they tried to back away from him, he took in a deep breath before he proceeded to exhale. They tried to match his technique by countering with their own rock protection, but what happened was every single thing within the path of his flames turned to cinders, burned away like embers, including their skin, flesh and bones. Just like that. The grass ninjas got to their feet as he started to walk away, showing no care for either of them, returning back to the land of grass. He made his way straight towards where the leader resides. The leader of said village was a bald-headed man, standing around 6'1". He had a rather imposing figure. His looks alone look rather dangerous despite him not being that awfully powerful. He had deep black eyes, a very dark personality of one that only seeks the benefit for his own village. The land of grass and Konoha has ties together, but given the ties that this young man possessed with a certain clan, he wasn't supposed to be here. However, the leader, his name was Sozu. Sozu did not care about that. All he cared about was the benefit of his own village. I take it things went well, and the land was conquered, he said. The young man, he showed this disdain on his face, as he did not answer right away. When I speak, I expect my questions to be answered, Sozu said, gritting his teeth angrily but spoken. Yes, I eliminated the enemy, and the land has been taken by yours, said Naruto. Ah, good. We've been over this, Naruto, Sozu said. I thought you understand things by now. Naruto clenched his fists. This was the same Naruto Uzumaki who had to watch his father and mother be taken in front of his own eyes. A lot has happened. It has been a couple of years. Where is she? Ah, I did promise. Sozu snapped his finger as someone entered. Would you please lead him there? The person nodded as Naruto followed behind the individual. And Naruto, Sozu said, stopping him in his tracks. Don't try to do anything stupid this time once again. I would hate to punish you both once again. Naruto's fingers were caving into his own skin, as his fist was clenched so tight that blood was dripping from his palm. Sozu saw that. However, he knew the boy would not try to retaliate once again, knowing the dangers that would come. He was taken to a room. Inside of said room, all that was in there was a monitor, which was connected to a speaker. Said monitor was turned on, allowing him to see the person on the other side. For the first time since, a smile graced his features. The person on the other side also started to smile. Big brother. It was a young girl. She was 13 years old. Her name was Karin Uzumaki. She was Naruto's younger sister. After the attack on his home, after Naruto had slaughtered those ninjas and been taken captive, a lot has happened since that. He was taken here and in prison after they were able to witness the destructive energy that lie within this boy. They couldn't simply allow that to go to waste. From the beginning, they knew what his weakness was. The only weakness that he seemed to possibly have, and that was his sister. So for the entire time, his sister was kept away from him, seen face to face at first, but he tried, not once, not twice, but 3 times, to break her and himself out. That was when he was younger, when he wasn't as powerful. Sozu realized that he couldn't give him that opportunity anymore, so he separated the two. He kept Karin locked away at a location that Naruto had no idea where she was. In doing so, Naruto did all that he asked. Given that Naruto was not publicized, connected to the land of grass, Sozu had used Naruto to make a whole lot of money and gain a whole lot of control, because nothing could link him back to anything. He'd even used Naruto to assassinate some of his own allies, so that he could gain control over certain areas that now belonged to him. And Naruto was the one that did this. Sozu had been using this to benefit his village, which has been going splendidly for the past couple of years. The child was truly remarkable. Now he see why the Uzumakis were destroyed. However, perhaps this child was just a prodigy or a being of vast understanding of comprehension, because power like this was not normal. Definitely not. And there was so much, starting from his flames alone, that could burn everything within the world. That was one of the major factors that were there. Naruto sat down and spoke with his younger sister. They had saw what his mother did, allowing one of the villagers to bite her to heal himself when they attacked. Therefore, they knew. As it was passed down, it was a bloodline trait. Karin was the one that possessed it. However, Sozu had made Naruto a deal that he wouldn't allow his people to bite Karin if Naruto fought on the forefront. If Naruto prevented his man from being injured, which he did, not always, but when it didn't happen, Karin was used, which caused Naruto to lash out several times. However, Sozu simply put her life on the line which reined Naruto back in. Karen also didn't want her brother to get hurt because of her. Knowing that, he would give his life up to ensure that she was safe. So she always pretended like everything was okay, not wanting him to lose his cool, because these people would not hesitate to hurt either of them to get what they want. Granted, they need Naruto, but Sozu was a very careful man, knowing that if Naruto was too much of a problem than he was worth, he would try to kill him. So Karen always did her best to keep that beautiful smile on her face when she greeted and spoke to her brother. However, things weren't as bad as they used to be, given that Naruto was now partaking in majority of the missions. However, she hated that he was getting used and worked for her sake. However, she had no idea where she was. She could sense the ninjas around her, and that made her realize that she was not anywhere close to Naruto. Karen had never told a soul about her sensory ability, but she figured that Sozu knew about that, the reason why he's keeping her so far away. So she could not give Naruto any hints about her location, about where she was located at all. However, it was good to sit down and simply talk with him, and it was good for him to simply sit down and talk with her. They were the only family that they had left in this world. Time skip. As Naruto was confined to the room that he's been in for the longest time now, there was so much hate within his heart. Sozu had no idea just how truly powerful Naruto was. He's been honing his skills, honing his strength for the longest time now. He was much more powerful than he lets on. However, there was nothing that he could do about it for the time being. There was nothing to indicate where Karen is located. His mother always said that he was special, and she was right. As Naruto looked down towards his hands, it transformed into a strange, massive hand with demonic looking claws. He could feel that he could go further, but he hasn't revealed anything yet. He's been keeping most of his power at bay, given that he was under constant watch. So he was keeping majority of it away, because he knew one day there will be a slip up, one day there will be a mistake, and he will find her. And once he does, he will level this entire village till there was nothing left. He will burn it all. He will incinerate every single last substance of this village. Until then, he just had to buy his time. Every single time he closed his eyes, perhaps it was the guilt of being unable to save his sister, but he read his mother's lips. Her last words to him was, "Protect your sister." As her big brother, he had vowed that he would keep her safe and protect her, and yet he couldn't even find her. It was eating away at him, fueling his rage, fueling his destructive ability. But he just had to buy his time and wait for his moment to strike, because once that moment came, he was going to rain hell and destruction upon them all. Time skip. This is one of the main things that Sozu was using to benefit his people and his village, by sending Naruto out on missions that he should not get involved in. Sozu had contact with a man known as Gato. Gato dealt with underground businesses. He was a tyrant, an awful individual. A man that needed to be literally put down for the safety of many innocent children. Sozu heard about what the mission entailed. Konoha ninjas were trying to prevent Gato from ending a bridge builder's life. So that is why Gato reached out to Sozu, asking for his help. In the past, Naruto has worked a mission like this before for the same man. However, there wasn't much conversation. He simply did what he was told and returned back. Sozu knew that he wouldn't try to run away, that he wouldn't try to flee, because they had his sister, the only thing that he could use to control him. So yes, they were using that. Despite the links between them and Konoha, Sozu did not care because once again, Naruto was not tied to Konoha. He was not tied to the land of grass. He was not tied to anything. And Sozu knew that. Using Naruto as a pawn that would not get tracked back to him. He constantly warned Naruto about not giving away anything linking him back to him. Otherwise, he would take out the wrath of his anger on his sister. And Naruto could not find her to stop him where she was. So Sozu was using that card frequently, knowing that it was his biggest one to hold. So with that, Naruto was sent out of the village, Sozu promising that if he cleaned up the job perfectly, he would allow him to speak to his sister twice this week, as it was a weekly checkup thing. She was the only thing that brought Naruto happiness in this world, so he made his way off quickly as he could to return as fast as he possibly could as he headed towards the land of wave. Meanwhile, Naruto was heading there. A young girl. Her name was Mito Uzumaki. Mito was a special individual. She hailed from the village known as Konoha, but right now she was on a mission. It wasn't long ago that she found out that she possessed the nine-tailed fox. Mito grew up an orphan, never knowing her parents. However, she found out that the Hokage had sealed the nine tails inside of her. It came shockingly. After all, the one to tell her was her own sensei, a man that was trying to betray the village. She did defeat him though. Mito had a rather cheery personality, always trying to find the best in things, because she was afraid if she did not do that, the sadness would swallow her. For most of her life, the villagers treated her like she wasn't there. They weren't physically abusive, but emotionally, yes. As they pretended like she was a ghost, an empty, hollow person that was simply walking the street. So she drew attention to herself. She saw how many people go about doing things, as majority of the girls did not want to hang out or play with her. She saw that the boys, they tend to do things to get in trouble and they were always caught, which caused her personality to take on a tomboy personality, as she was always roughhousing, playing around, pulling pranks, making jokes. However, as years passed, she did make friends in the academy, as the clan students were not as bad as the civilians one. The civilian students were told by their parents to stay away from her, so yes, that was bad. As she stood there having just met someone, the person's name was Haku. At first, Mito thought that she was a girl, but turns out that she was a boy. A very pretty boy. Having left the night earlier, given the altercation between her and the young child, well, she wouldn't say that it was a bad altercation, but still, he got on her nerves, as he didn't understand what suffering really was. He was just a coward. Then again, he was just a child, she thought to herself. As she went about her business, she wanted to get the technique down. She was interrupted though by Sasuke Uchiha, one of her teammates, who was sent to come and fetch her. She had no idea what the big deal was about Sasuke. She just never saw it. All the other girls fawning over him like he was special. Granted, she didn't really hate him or anything like that. If anything, they were always trying to one-up one another, given their new training tactic. However, for the first time since, they actually worked together. Sakura Haruno and Kakashi Hatake, the last two members of the team, watched as the both of them came hobbling inside. They both were dead tired, extremely so. However, they've almost got it down. Time skip. Mito was awoken by the noise downstairs as she made her way. It turns out that her team left her. Believing that she overdid it last night, they decide to let her rest, while the remaining members head towards the bridge. as she ran back upstairs to get ready so that she could move out. However, in that time, thugs came. They took Tsunami. The young child Iniri ran head first, not even thinking. His mother screamed for him to stop, but she was knocked out. Immediately, Iniri swapped places with a log. What the hell? Mito came down with a spinning kick, sending both of the thugs down to the ground. One of them was knocked out cold, the other one got back up as she flipped. She twisted mid-air before stomping into his head, his skull slamming within the pier. He wasn't getting up anymore. She restrained the both of them, helping Tsunami up. The woman had been knocked unconscious. She turned towards Iniri though. Iniri started to cry after. The words that she said remind him of Kaiser. She gave him back something that he thought that he lost: hope. When she smiled at him, the young child blushed slightly in embarrassment. Because of the way she acted, he failed to realize that he was actually dealing with a girl the entire time. However, now he saw past that acting of hers. She was a sweet, kind person who just helped him, and she gave him back the hope to make the other people realize that they didn't have to take this anymore. They could fight, just like Kaiser did. With that, Mito made her way towards the bridge. Meanwhile, that was going on, having arrived towards the land of Wave, as Mito thing happened within a short amount of time. Given the speed that Naruto possessed, it was at the same time that it took him to get there. As he arrived towards said location, Gato allowed his man to bring the tool in, while he would not say that to the boy's face. But that is how he saw ninjas, as tools for the highest bidder. So yes, here he was. What is it that you want to be done? Naruto said, getting straight to the business, having no time to waste here. Yes, Gato said. I want you to kill Zabuza Momochi and his little lackey, and the bridge builder as well. Gato wanted Zabuza dead because his little punk broke his arm, and besides, he wasn't about to pay him the sum that he failed to do in the first place. He sent him to kill them before and he failed, so yeah, screw him. So now, they were all going to die. You came at the exact right moment, Gato said. It turns out they're all at the bridge right now. So why don't you go there and finish them all off? Naruto wasn't sure what bridge he was talking about. However, heading here, he had felt the disturbance in the air. Someone was fighting nearby. He presumed that it was them. Naruto made his way off, not saying a word. Not much of a talker, that one, Gato said, as he started to gather his boys so they could head there as well. It's finally time that he take this village. It's finally time that they realize there was no hope. Time skip. Both Kakashi and Zabuza Momochi clashed against one another violently. The mist was thick. Kakashi's Sharingan was working overtime here. Zabuza believed that he had the advantage, having left a scar across the man's chest. An X-scar. Zabuza swung his blade once again. Kakashi evaded and jumped away. There is no hope for you here, Copy Ninja. You can't best me within my element. Kakashi turned his gaze, feeling something off, as he felt it on his fingertips before it started to warm him down. A heat. An abnormal heat. Zabuza turned and raised his blade. Suddenly, Naruto's demonic claw hand clashed with said blade. The claws were red and glowing. Zabuza's eyes went wide as a sizable explosion blew the mist away, breaking down that section of the bridge. Kakashi jumped, leaping back. Mito, who had arrived earlier, she came to a stop. So did Sasuke Uchiha, who now had his Sharingan activated. However, the copy ninja was over there. Their mind instantly worried about their sensei and that sizable explosion. But there was also someone else that was worrying. Haku, Mito's so-called friend that she met, Zabuza's apprentice. Haku felt the explosion. He was afraid for his master's safety. He turned his gaze trying to understand. What had that amount of power? Was that the copy ninja? The explosion came out of nowhere all of a sudden. Meanwhile, Kakashi was shocked. Truly, whatever did this was powerful. He saw, before the blast went off, this wasn't an explosive tag or a jutsu. This originated from some hand. Not a human hand, but still, perhaps modified, he thought to himself. He looked as he saw Zabuza clinging onto the railing with one hand that was still functional, given the support beams that shoot upwards. Standing there on one of the broken logs, calmly despite that should be tipping over right now, was a young man. Long red hair, slated red eyes, his hand returning back to normal. Zabuza snarled in anger. "Who the hell are you?" he said. Naruto did not talk. Instead, he created two spears of fire that literally solidified in his hand. He launched one at Zabuza. Zabuza jumped away as a thing ruptured through that section of the bridge and went straight into the water. Zabuza left himself open as he was in mid-air. Naruto launched the other one straight towards his temple. Zabuza raised his blade and it made contact with it. Luckily, he had turned himself, using the blade as the weight to move slightly. But even then, it grazed his shoulder, burning him. The thing had burned directly through his blade. What the hell? Zabuza thought as he flipped away and landed, Kakashi moving back, realizing that this person was after Zabuza and not him. It was not his place to get involved, using that time to rush back towards his teammates. As he was rushing towards them, he saw the hunter ninja dashing across the bridge, racing towards Zabuza. The both of them gazed at each other as they moved past. Mito was chasing after the hunter ninja, but Kakashi stopped her. "What are you doing, Sensei? They're getting away." "Let them," Kakashi said. "There is a much greater threat to deal with here," he said. Mito looked up towards him. "Huh?" she said, confused. Meanwhile, Haku watched another terrible explosion went off, forcing to come to a stop as something was thrown. Boom! It crashed down on the bridge. Haku was alarmed as Zabuza, his right arm burned badly, got back to his feet with pain. That is when he came, walking. The aura that leaked from him started to send despair and sadness into their hearts, cowering them down. Zabuza felt something as he looked down to see his one working arm shaking. What the hell? Am I afraid? He asked himself, knowing that this was not an emotion that he took into battle, always putting his life on the line, and yet, somehow, face to face with this individual, he felt his nerves shaking, his body trembling. Haku shut his emotions down. The only way to get over this, he focused on one thing and one thing only, protecting his master as he threw himself into the oncoming collision, despite the fear. Creating three mirrors, Haku jumped from one to another, but Naruto brought his hand together as three massive heads of dragons formed. They seemed to be coexisting by themselves. They instantly released flames that turned the mirrors into nothing, forcing Haku to jump away. As Naruto turned his hand back into his claw form before slashing, a violent eruption of wind. Zabuza slammed his blade down into the bridge, trying to anchor himself, but the bridge was also ripped up, both of them thrown through the air. Naruto dashed past them at immaculate speed. Zabuza twisted mid-air and swung as Naruto slammed his fist into the blade, shattering it. Zabuza's eyes went wide as Naruto grabbed him by the throat and crushed him into that bridge, breaking it. Haku sent several needles towards Naruto, but they did not pierce his skin. Haku was alarmed as the red eyes swept over him. Despite shutting off his emotions to fight, his body froze up. On instinct, realizing the threat, Naruto tossed Zabuza. Haku tried to catch his master only for a red-hot spear to rip through Zabuza's side and given the proximity tear through Haku's chest. Naruto jumped into the sky and released a powerful roar that immediately shut the two down. This was not a normal roar. It dived into the very essence of who they were, breaking down their comprehension, breaking down their sense of mobility. However, at the other side of the bridge, it also affected them. Immediately, Tazuna crashed down to his knees, watching his life flash in front of his eyes. As for Sakura, she was already curled up, terrified. Sasuke was unable to move where he stood. Mito was trembling, her body being less susceptible because of what was inside of it. Two massive red eyes opened up as a nine-tailed fox was awoken by that roar. Kakashi was struggling to breathe, being the closest. What the hell is this? He said, feeling his entire body go into defensive mode. However, he could not move. The only reason why they were able to spare from much of the damage that Zabuza and Haku were going through was because they were further away from the epicenter of where it happened. However, it was overwhelming. This wasn't any normal roar. This wasn't any normal wave of energy that corrupted one. Think of it as a genjutsu. However, on a much more physical scale. It was known as Dragon Fear. The roar came from Naruto's soul. The power that was infused inside of him. It drove those around him into a state of madness and despair. It was one of the things that he did when he tried to rescue Karen, but it was then that he found out that she was nowhere close to where he was. However, it was like a genjutsu. It affected you on a mental scale. However, for those that were weaker, they would die. However, there was a proximity to it, and Kakashi and the others being further away, it didn't affect them as much as it did Zabuza and Haku, who were already experiencing a great amount of fear fighting Naruto. So yes, not to mention Naruto was nowhere close to truly understanding the depths of his roar and what he could do, and that was because he was constantly suppressing himself to not fully go into that animalistic side of his, because it was a part of him, which showed in his durability as well, to show that this form was just one of many. His durability was on a completely different level. You have to truly enhance your blade with chakra to even come close if you wanted to pierce his skin, and it had to be very powerful to do so. One of the many reasons why the Land of Grass has been succeeding so much, given them having someone like him on their team. Well, forcefully that is. Over to the other side, as Zabuza and Haku were struggling to overcome what they were going through, Naruto stepped in front of the both of them, his hand turning back as he lifted into the sky, the demonic claws coming out as he slashed. It seems like he tear into reality itself. His slash in space caused rifts of energy to collide against itself, reducing that section of the bridge and Zabuza and Haku to nothingness. Naruto jumped clearing the area before landing, his hand returning back to normal. Gato and his men were currently on their ships heading there. Given that they had enough time, they circle around and gather. All of them did. As they start to make their way up, having to take the other way around given that Naruto had destroyed that end of the bridge. However, that gave them the opportunity to surround the Konoha ninjas and every single one of them in the center, which includes the bridge builder. Kakashi Hatake, who was back on his feet, told his students to get behind him now. Kazuna was still shaking. Sakura was barely able to move. Sasuke was struggling and Mito could feel the quakes going through her, but at the same time she felt an enormous amount of power boiling within her stomach. Naruto came to a stop. I have no qualms with you, Konoha ninjas. I'm only here for it. Naruto paused. However, his gaze was fixated on not the bridge builder but Mito. Kakashi noticed that she had his sister here, but she didn't look like his sister. She looked like someone else. He remembered her name. He remembered that woman rather well. And now looking at this girl, the words slipped from his mouth. Kushina, he said. Kushina Uzumaki. Kakashi was shocked to what he heard. He knowing who Mito's parents were, Mito was confused, unable to properly look this person in the eyes, as he was calling her a different name. That's not my name, she struggled. I'm Mito Uzumaki, she said. Mito, said Naruto, wondering if this could be, but his mom believed that she was. Well done. A voice interrupted them as Gato emerged. I take it. That little flimsy and his partner is dead. Demon my ass. Gato said. Yes, they're dead. Good. Now kill the bridge builder. After all, I am paying a lot for this. Mito stepped forward, refusing to allow him to do something like that. After her promise to Iniri, Kakashi, on the other hand, watched his gaze very carefully. He turned his gaze towards Kakashi, ignoring Mito. Tell your comrades to stand down. This has nothing to do with her. Get out of the way. Enough talking, Gato said. If you can't go around them, go through them. We can't allow him to kill him, Mito said. We have to fight. Sasuke, being the arrogant one, stand up as well, refusing to let the bridge builder get killed on his watch. Kakashi, though, understood the implications of what they were doing. They did not. There was only one thing to do in that moment. Kakashi blitzed across the bridge. They were unable to react, all of them being thugs, as he buried a kunai in Gato's throat. Gato was shocked and caught off guard as he gurgled on his own blood. He collapsed down to the ground. Kakashi then watched Naruto very carefully. Naruto watching the body drop to the ground. Kakashi was watching Naruto's feet. The moment he had moved off, Naruto had reacted, and he could have moved as well, but he did not. He stopped himself because he was looking at Kushina. She looked just like her. He had that recollection in his head. His mother's cousin. His mother told him that she died, and that her child died as well. That is what his mother had believed. After all, it was hard enough to get information without being seen by anyone. However, Mito Uzumaki was a secret to everyone. The village had no idea what was truly going on, not knowing that she was the daughter of the fourth Hokage and Kushina Uzumaki. So it is understandable that his mother believed that. All this time there she was. However, Naruto knew that he had to do a mission. However, he didn't want to kill this girl. This was the first time something like this ever happened. Perhaps it was because it was his mother's family, which meant that they too were family as well, and she would not stand down. The copy ninja made the right move by killing Gato, which meant they no longer need to be afraid, because his mission was null and void. Naruto started to walk as Mito raised her weapons. Kakashi stepped in front of her, but Naruto simply stopped in front of the man. "You played the right card," Naruto said, as he jumped towards the end, where the ledge was, walking alongside it. However, Gato men were not pleased by the outcome of this. They were pissed off. As Naruto walked by, the bridge builder looking at him with a great amount of fear. But Naruto did not attack him though. He stopped though, as all of them had their weapons raised. Their numbers were a bit overwhelming. Smoke started to leave the side of Naruto's mouth. As he looked at them, the smoke started to get even more and more. He took in a deep breath. They all, believing that they could overwhelm them with their numbers, take the town, they said. That was until Naruto exhaled. What followed was something that these children had never witnessed before. And despite his age and despite what he's been through, Kakashi had never seen anything like this before. A storm, a literal whirlwind of heat and flames, swept across the bridge. Their screams only lasted for seconds before they were snuffed out. It was violent, destructive, chaotic. Naruto reduced them all into nothing. Just like that. With that, he started to walk away. Mito didn't know why. However, him calling her another name, looking at her like she was someone else, given his here, perhaps. "Hey!" Naruto came to a stop. "Who are you? And why did you call me Kushina?" Naruto looked towards her. Before his back started to move, as massive wings appeared on his back, he flapped them and took off. "Hey, wait!" Mito had to stop, feeling a heat as she got too close to the area. Despite the technique being dealt with, there was still this lingering heat that actually burnt her. No, that was shocking. Every single thug that was there was now dead. Time skip. "It was not my fault," said Naruto, anger radiating from him. "I suggest you calm yourself," Sozu said, as the aura from Naruto was becoming a problem. "Unless you want me to take away a month." Naruto bit down so hard that he was biting through his own lip. Good thing for his godly regeneration. "You were there. You could have prevented one of my clients from being killed. But no, and now he's dead. And I will be losing out on a lot of future income from that area, so yes, you're being punished for your so-called mistake." Naruto looked down, knowing that if he had looked up, he would kill the man right there and then, and dooming his sister's fate, as the man had someone on standby to end their life if he killed him. So yes, you may go. Naruto sucked all of that rage in as he walked, knowing that he couldn't even have told the Konoha ninjas anything. After all, if he did, and they came here, his sister would die. That man had made everything clear from day one, after his mistakes, of course. Returning back to his confined sector, as someone was always on watch, Naruto simply collapsed on his bed, slamming his fist into the wall. It cracked instantly, as he took his anger out on that, holding back the rage that he was feeling. when suddenly he heard something outside. Confused as he looked up, he heard movements as the door opened up. He got to his feet as someone entered. Stepping within the darkness, the person had slitted eyes, just like him. "Who are you?" said Naruto. The person chuckled. "Your savior." But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see part 2, you already know what to do. Comment down below and tell me, and I'll be posting it as soon as possible. But I'm off for now. See you guys soon. Peace.